On Second Shot, we tackle 2 new headlines every week to find out what kind of wisdom the world is dishing out today. And we want you to be a part of that. When you see a headline you want to take a second shot at, or if you're looking for advice, or just want to tell us what you think of the show, email us at secondshotcast@gmail.com. If you like what you hear, rate us on iTunes. This helps us move up in the ratings so more people will see us. And if you want to hear more, subscribe to the show so that the new episodes will get straight to you every single Friday. We love you. Thanks for listening, and enjoy.
There's a lot of news in the world today.
News that might surprise you, startle you, upset, or maybe impress.
News that's not always for the faint of heart.
That's why the man who failed his way to success, Heath Oakes, is stepping up.
Tackling today's headlines with ignorance on fire in a way only a millennial mogul can.
Take off your sport coat, grab a beer, and enjoy the conversation.
This is Second Shot with your host, Heath Oakes.
I'm telling you, Robert, Matt, Zach, I feel like this year I have not been. I feel like I'm running in mud almost. It feels like I have just not shot out the gate like normal. Is it just me? I mean, or does this feel like a slow start to you?
Hey, I work with you every day. I feel the exact same way.
It's crazy.
I'm keeping my nerves calm until the end of February.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna turn it on. Something's gonna happen.
Wait, what happens at the end of February?
We're just hoping that we not feel like we're running in
mud. It's not
mud.
really a hope. It's based off some
good
information in my mind, but yeah,
like measuring results,
right?
That we know, you know, what we're going to talk about here in a little bit.
I got to be honest, this sounds a little out of character for both of you. Normally,
I
you're
feel
both.
confident.
I'm going to get up and get it. And it's going to happen.
It's happening.
It's going to happen. It just has not happened as fast as we truly really expected for the year. It's odd. It really is odd.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
But we've been measuring the results, as we're going to talk about here in a little bit.
Sure.
And if we didn't measure results, then I would be a lot less confident because it would just be shooting from the hip.
Right.
But it's not. It just typically it doesn't go this way. Typically it's off. I mean, now at the end of the year, everybody is putting everything they can to close the year in numbers, everything like that. First part of the year is a bunch of meetings and stuff, but it typically gets off a little better. But we got to go. I mean, I'm not really that worried about it. It just feels like it's been one of the slowest starts.
You know, I've heard people say before they can't all be winners. Is there anything to that? You think that's true, or
no?
Well, you can only have one winner.
But
you can always be the winner.
It's a good point. Yeah, or you could always be the winner. That's a good point.
That's the whole point.
There was a sales guy one time that was talking about the bottom of the port. Said, well, somebody's got to be at the bottom of the port. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to last long with me.
Just don't let
right.
Like, if your mentality was like, well, I'm at the bottom. I mean, somebody's got to. I'm like, no, buddy. We ain't going to work out very well. I can tell you that.
Not on my watch.
So we got Robert, and we got Zach and Matt as usual, and everybody here. And Roberto, as I like to say, Roberto Halberti. That'd be funny, huh?
Yeah, that'd work.
Wouldn't that be?
Yeah, good.
So we got a little something different we want to do on this episode, too, is we got one headline that it's got like 5 different topics, and we want to pick one of the topics on this segment, and we want to pick another topic of the same headline on the second segment, because I think they're both pretty good as far as getting some tactical things as well. So read the headline and give us the first one we're going to talk about.
Right, yes. The headline is 5 ways successful entrepreneurs approach problems and solve them effectively. We looked at these 5, and they're all great, but there's 2 in particular that we thought to ourselves, these stand out. Maybe we should do this. This is 1 episode, 1 headline. It's going to be awesome. And the first one here is measure your end results. One of the most important things successful entrepreneurs do differently is that they spend time on analyzing the end results and the outcomes of their actions. Analyzing your efforts helps you in many ways, from measuring the success or failure of your hard work to keeping track of your customers and their interest in your products and services. Timely feedback from clients can also help improve products. So measure the results of your projects and use the findings of your analysis to make improvements to your future work. Heath, what do you think about this?
I'm more so of, and not just for entrepreneurs, but I think measuring in general. I mean, like, for instance, with Brighton, right, as a baby and stuff, and still to this day, we have a little book. So anytime you feed her, we put down the time, the ounces, when she goes to the bathroom and whatnot, because babies can't speak, right? So if something's not seeming right, and say she hadn't went number 2 in 3 days,
there's a problem.
We can go back and look at those numbers to see if that's true or not.
Right.
In order to find the solution. So, and then, you know, as they're a baby and you don't know how much you're feeding them in a day. So if you don't have it written down, and then say Jenny comes home and then I'm coming in later and she's got to run out the door, I can just go look and see where we're at during the day. So in parenting, I think about it as a little baby, but then results in not just measuring your end results, but I'm talking about you got to have something to measure and keep track of, or you don't know where to get better at. Does that
For
make
sure,
sense?
For sure. I agree. Now, I'm going to tell you this. When you have about 3 more kids, I feel like you're going to have 4, even though you say you're only going to have 1. The measuring those results will begin to thin very, very well. Maybe not. You millennial parents are pretty cool about that kind of stuff. But no, back to
you're a millennial too, technically. You know
I
that,
was
right?
born in 1982, and if you look it up, we are. I have a choice. I have a choice to make.
No, you don't have a choice.
I'm kind of a millennial. I'm kind of a millennial.
With only LinkedIn as a social media.
Hey, it's good to know you'd rather not be a millennial if you have the option.
Well,
I'd
I
rather
love
just
millennials.
not be that.
I can't. Once you get too far into the past. About 1990, they get interesting.
Sure.
But what other type of measuring results in day-to-day? Like, saying somebody's not just an entrepreneur, right? Like what are some other regular things that can be measured?
If you're trying to, any kind of goal or project or anything you're trying to figure out how to get to the end of, if you I tell guys all the time, if you can't run a business if you can't measure your results, you can't tell me how you got from point A to point B. You can't run anything because it can never be. It's not repetitive. It's not. It's hard to. You have to be able to measure results in anything that you do, no matter what.
I read somewhere. I don't know if there's anything to this, but I read that a lot of successful people, like really at the top of corporations, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, people like that, they keep journals. They keep track of what they do throughout the day, and you wouldn't think they'd need to. You wouldn't think they'd have time, but they do. And I think the reason is because, to quote Steve Jobs, he said, it's easy to connect the dots backwards. It's easy to look back and see how you got where you're going.
Sure.
It's hard to try to do it forwards and know where you're going to be.
Right.
But if you can keep track of where you've come from, if you can keep track of your success and how you got there, maybe it'll help you predict what's coming around the corner. And for people who are successful, there seems to be something to it.
It is, and it goes back to why we're saying that we're confident and really not scared about the slow start is because we do have the results to know and the measurables.
Right.
So, for instance, in sales, all of our guys, here's what a lot of salespeople don't do. They'll say, oh, I'm not following a script or I'm not keeping track of my calls and all these things because I'm just going to wing it.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. I always kept track of every dial I made for anything. And when they turned into sell and when all that, because when I could look back at my data, basically, I could say, every 30 calls I set an appointment by saying the same thing over and over. And so if I said something different every time, I had nothing to measure to know where my results would be. And I don't keep a journal, but what I do is I keep everything I do on my calendar.
Right.
And so what I do at the end of every 2 or 3 weeks, I'll go back and look at my last 2 or 3 weeks because what it does is when there's times I'm got some anxiety that something's not being done, I can typically go back and look at my calendar and realize where my time has been spent wrong, and that's what's led me to this point. And so measurables, for instance, I put everything on my calendar, every personal thing, business thing, everything, to where I can always go back and see where my time's being spent.
You can't fix any problem if you don't know where to start to fix the problem. And if you don't have measurables to fix it doesn't matter what it is. You can't. I mean, think about the first guy that ever changed a tire on a vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah.
If he didn't tell someone else, the next guy, how to do that, or the process would have never got any better.
Right.
Anything that you look around this room and see, the product wouldn't have gotten any better
without a process.
The delivery wouldn't have gotten any better. That's measuring those results is how you get to those points.
Well, and if you're trying to build some prototype of something, I was listening to How I Built This podcast, and it was James Dyson who created the Dyson vacuum cleaner stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And he said it was like 500. He had to build over like 500 prototype vacuum cleaners with the Dyson ball to get it right. I guarantee you he tracked and measured every single little thing at every prototype where screw went in where and all that, because if he didn't, he would have never known where to tweak this and where to tweak that at. So I think it's important to have a calendar and putting every little thing on it, for instance, I think is a good tip to always be able to look at and measure those results. So if you can look back and realize, man, I've just not felt good the last 2 weeks, and if you had everything dialogued, you can go back and look at, man, realize your time may have been sucked into things that you don't enjoy and don't like, and so therefore it's been draining to you. But again, if you don't have anything written down, if you have no measurables, then how are you going to fix it?
Right.
You don't know.
It's a slow start like anything.
Yeah.
It's like cleaning a big mess. One day I'm sure you didn't wake up and think, I'm logging everything I do in a calendar. Start small.
Absolutely.
Start with easy things, meetings, phone calls. Yeah.
But logging the calendar, I think, is a simple thing.
Yeah.
Just start keeping one.
Right.
Keep a calendar and putting stuff on it.
It's easier now than ever.
Yes,
With phones and the internet, yeah,
absolutely.
it's so easy to do.
Yes.
You can just about do it without ever doing anything. There's probably an app out there that'll do it for you. You went here. I mean, we just
Right.
put an app on our phone with
Yeah.
the kids that
Sure.
you can just, it says you went here and you did this. It shows how fast I was going, if I accelerated fast, and
Nice.
you know,
It's easy to do it. You just got to start keeping results. Don't, you know, so if you got the results, you can look back at the end of a game. If you're trying to start a business of any sort, you don't just wing stuff. You don't just try
can't
to
win without keeping measurable.
Absolutely.
Period.
You got to
There's
keep
no
measure.
way.
You got to keep score. So
I like it.
We're going to come back and get another one on the second segment of Second Shot.
He's a suit and tie kind of guy with deep southern roots. Heath Oaks hosts more of Second Shot coming up on RNCN.
Hear ye, great news for all of you guys. Colonial Life is hiring some salespeople from all over the country. No matter where you are in the United States of America, if you're looking for a sales career, if you want to just learn more about what Colonial Life does, send an email to mbeltran@coloniallife.com, mbeltran@coloniallife.com. We'll get you set up with the right people you need to talk to and see if you're going to win that job. If you're in the Metroplex area, great. If you're in St. Louis, great. We're going to have office there for you. mbeltran@coloniallife.com, and change your career today.
Ready? Aim. Fire. Second Shot is back for another round on RNCN.
So Zach says he's an expert at this next topic.
No, I'm not.
Like
I'm the
Zach was
opposite of
saying
it.
he's the absolute, like he is the Buddha of all picking your battles, right?
Okay, yeah, I see what we're doing here. No, I am not the expert at picking battles. Yeah, let me rattle off this headline before I get too far into it. Again, this is from 5 successful ways entrepreneurs approach problems and solve them effectively. This is number 5. Pick your battles. Pick your areas of work carefully. Your individual experiences, training, and background will give you an edge in solving problems in some areas instead of others. Understand where your skill set and knowledge can be used to the best advantage, and focus on creating solutions to problems in that area. Too many entrepreneurs fail because they get tempted to start up in a sector they have no previous knowledge or experience of. Play to your strengths, and you'll already have made a head start on the path to success. Heath, what do you think about this?
So what I think is a little contradicting in that article is, look at me, I used a big word. Did you hear that? Like
Contradicting?
I did all
Don't
kinds of
spell it.
How many letters
Don't
is
spell
that?
it. Don't spell it.
So the interesting thing is that it doesn't make a lot of sense that the way that they do that, because they talk about, number one, it's like staying in your own lane, but then pick your own battles. They're not on course, but we're going to go with the pick your battles.
Sure.
So, Zach, when you talk about, you say in kind of relationships and everything, because relationships is key about picking your battles. And relationships are everything, not only just your intimate relationships, but your work relationships, because picking your battles is a very difficult thing. It was a very difficult thing for me as well. But you were talking about how picking your battles was tough for you. What are a scenario that is tough for you?
I tell you what, I got one.
Okay.
We had a thing the other day. We produce video content for podcasts, or you might be watching it right now. And we had an issue about where these should be posted and how they should be posted, whether or not we should be posting things directly to a social media site versus posting a link, versus how we should present these, whether or not we should write descriptions or keep them. It's a whole thing. And at the surface, it doesn't matter. It really, I mean, either way, the content's going out, and if it's going out successfully, we're happy. But the issue for me is I'm like, well, no, I feel like I'm really right here. I feel like I produce the videos. I'm in the room, like, making them happen. Like, I feel like there's a certain sense of myself in them, and I want them to be successful. And if I feel like I'm really right about it, I want to defend it and be like, hey, listen, this is the way we should do it. Like, and here's why. And sometimes I feel like I run into a problem where whoever's listening, which could be my manager or coworker like Matt or whoever, they'll be like, yeah, but like, this is the way we're going to do it now, and that's the way it is. And I'm like, no, though, I want to say what I feel. I want to fight for this, and I want to fight over it, and I shouldn't.
Well, but you got to know, there's times you got to fight for something. There's absolutely times you have to fight for something, okay?
Right.
But here's diving into this exact scenario. Why did you say that it really doesn't matter at the end of the day? Because the goal is to get the content out, correct?
Right.
And what you basically is the argument is over whether it's go straight to social media or straight to
Actually,
YouTube.
the goal is probably the ultimate goal is to make get bigger.
Get viewers.
Yeah.
There you go.
But this argument is over posting it straight to social media or somewhere else.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they all go to the social media somehow, right?
Right.
And it's also the ultimate goal of it is to get it out there. Mm-hmm. So it's going out there. In this scenario, so if you look at your end game, which is growing everything bigger, it's getting to social media. It's not an argument over whether we post it online or not, because that's a different thing. Yes, you got to get it online.
It's the delivery method.
Yeah. So at the end of the day,
is it an efficiency thing? Like,
well, at the end of the day, the same thing is happening. So what it is in your mind is your ego.
Right.
It's the ego that is making you want to fight for your way.
Absolutely. I feel like I've got a stake in this. Yeah,
but
totally.
you have to know when there are things you have to fight for.
Right.
Okay, so if, for instance, they come in and said, you know what, Zach, from now on, we're not going to post anything on social media about all the stuff y'all work on in here.
That would be crazy.
That is something I'm going to fight for.
Yeah.
That's something I'm going to stand my ground on because, again, you're putting a lot of work into something you want it out there. Mm-hmm. Hey, if the delivery method is this way, that way, as long as it gets out there, it doesn't matter. So you got to know when it is your ego is in the way, or is it going to help or hurt the end game goal?
The best thing about, like what you're talking about, what he's talking about here is if you fight or battle on little bullshit things like that, sometimes it may not be bullshit to you. Mm-hmm. The issue becomes everybody sees you as this person to where if you pick your battles properly, when you put your foot down, everybody listens.
Everybody listens.
That's the best part about it.
Sure. It's just like Ava was in here last episode. She's just quiet, doesn't say anything. I assume automatically that she is probably, very smart, very clever, and she's keeping to herself and being respectful. I have no idea what she's like in real life.
She's teeing y'all up into your
but in here,
walk out of here.
because she picks her moment to speak, her moment to say something, it makes her seem sharp and clever, and
Sure.
I think more of her for it. You're absolutely right. If I fight on everything, I'm not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, if you're sitting there,
but if I'm
like
smart, and
you
pick my
sit back
battles.
and wait, because the real battle that you want to win that you couldn't, that's when your foot hits the ground. That's the one that matters the most. If you're doing it constantly, no one will listen. Eventually, they just stop listening.
That's where you got to realize to take it. This is how you take an inner self-awareness check. Is think about if you put your foot down on something, does everybody really go, oh my God, okay, we're going to do it? Or does everybody keep fighting? And if you realize everybody keeps fighting, that means you're somebody who battles everything.
Right.
You want to be the one that when you put the foot down, it goes. Like, for instance, with me, my job, I need to try to marriage the relationship between the field salespeople and home office. Those are completely two different personality types of people. A-top salespeople are always right. They're never wrong, and everything that is theirs is the most important. Home office is these A-top salespeople are always demanding and all this. Mm-hmm. So what I do is every time just because Robert or anybody comes to me saying, man, this has got to be fixed, I don't just automatically do it. I dig into finding more. And if it's really their fault and really in their way, I'm going to tell them they have to eat it. I'm not going to home office with it.
Right.
Because when I go to home office and say this has to be done, it gets done.
Right.
Because they know that I don't just come cry wolf on everything.
Hey.
And so in your relationships personally as well.
I was going to say, let's go to the kid play here on this. Pick your battles. My wife tells me this all the time because a lot of times for me as a guy, or it may not be a guy thing, I don't know what it is, but you can be really short fused with your kids a lot more than a mom can, right?
Yeah.
But what I've learned, because there was like when Emmett was little, there was times, man, I want to just whoop his rear end, and I've never laid a finger on him, never had to whoop him.
Of
He's a
course.
great kid. But the funny part about it is learning to pick your battles, and Amy's been really good, showing me a lot of that.
Women are usually much better at it being,
because to me a battle is
the temper is usually much better than us.
Right, for sure. But it's even in that scenario you're talking about. Maybe your delivery method was better, but it's not. At the end of the day, it's going to get where it needs to get.
Right.
Just sit back and watch, and when one of them starts pissing and moaning about, oh, this is too hard to do this, you can go, let me show you an easier way to do it.
Right. And I think about
Patience,
this. I think about this a
picking
lot
your battles.
lately because I feel like I've been very short-tempered in an odd way.
Yeah.
But I think about it was an episode we did. The two of you both on it. You talked about the learning part of our brain and how it just kind of closes off
will.
when you're
Yeah.
angry. And it's easy when your ego's involved to get angry over this stuff. And it's tough to kind of step back and just be like, you know what, I gotta think about this for a minute. Yeah, this isn't worth it, or it is worth it. And you have to pick those battles.
But it's like, do you want to be the person that when you speak everybody stops, or everybody keeps moving? And so if you want to be the person that when you speak everybody stops, you'll think about it enough and make it happen. Like in a relationship, when you talk about relationships, Kristen was on an episode, she's talking about she hates it that her husband has put the clothes next to the hamper, right?
Yeah.
Why not in them? And I'm like, that's where I was telling Chris, I said, is that really that big of a deal?
Right.
Is that at the end of the day, does that stop things? Is that like gonna crash and fall. That's a pick your battles in your relationship. You know,
Sure.
You got to stand for what you got to stand for. Okay, but if putting clothes next to a hamper, you know, is that really a battle that you need to pick? Because what those little things do that you try to battle everything, snowball to the ultimate.
And when you also think about it, even from a kid's perspective, did any of you have a parent or someone around you that constantly nagged all the damn time?
Yeah.
And to this day, every time they said something, it rolls in one ear and out the other.
Yep.
Because you naturally have learned that they're just going to have an opinion that you really don't want to listen to constantly about everything.
Yep.
And I feel the same way about, you know, different people in my life that are like that. And if you pick your battles, they listen. You get a more effective person to listen to you a lot of times, in my opinion. It's tough for me to do. Amy and my wife's done a great job.
That is great. Is that the other day, my wife, you know, this is one of those things that my wife is so great at that she doesn't, where that there's, I guess, film was getting in some of the dishes of stuff, like the, you know, pump parts and the baby bottles. And then we were out of this soap, and I was like, man, how are we always out of soap? She goes, because you use so much of it. And I was like, well, they got the film in it. And she goes, well, because that's, I said, oh, I was putting more soap thinking that was not the film, right? She goes, look, I go, why didn't you say anything? She goes, because she said, I'm just grateful you washed the dishes. I didn't want to come and say, oh, you're using too much soap, and you know. She's like, I was great. You know what? You know what that did to me? I put a little drop of soap in there from now on. Like the way she approached me with that was picking that battle that she was like, you know, I'm grateful you washed the dishes. So I was happy to just keep buying more soap even though we didn't need to. And you know what? I figured it out on my own, right? I mean, so like that's a perfect example of it. So that's why I love my wife. She's awesome with that. So pick your battles carefully, people.
People will listen more effectively if you pick your battles.
It can make your relationships much better. And do the dishes.
Yeah.
Third segment of Second Shot coming right up.
Now that's what I call ignorance on fire. More of Second Shot with Heath Oaks still to come.
You guys have been listening to Second Shot and hearing us talk about it. You need to go pick up my book, Ignorance on Fire, A Journey of Failing Your Way to Success. You can get it on Amazon in a paper book. You can also hear this beautiful voice of mine in audiobook style on Audible or anywhere you're going to get your audiobooks. Guys, this book took a lot of time to put into it, and I believe it can really be some life-changing stuff to help you on your path to success. And hopefully you're going to fail your way to success just like I did. Ignorance on Fire, A Journey of Failing Your Way to Success. Amazon.com, Audible.com, audiobooks, paper books, everything. Get it, share it with your people, and I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Go pick it up today.
Kick off your boots or suit up. The choice is yours. Welcome back to Second Shot on RNCN.
Yeah, so the good thing is hopefully I'm going to get in the good graces of my wife since I acknowledge the fact that I appreciate her being grateful versus nagging me, right? Like that's a good thing. I should win some brownie points there, don't you think, Robert?
She didn't ask for any brownie points for not griping about this too much soap.
I know, but I gave her some.
It was cool giving her a shout out on the podcast.
I'm going to get you some brownie points. We're playing airsoft yesterday, and he goes, I have to leave here at 4 o'clock. And at 4, and he really wanted to stay at 4 o'clock.
Oh,
I mean, I could have easily
Yeah.
convinced him. And he says, I got to go home right now. And he actually got in his car, didn't hesitate, got home. Probably got home on time, right?
Oh, yeah, early. I wanted to play more, I'm not going to lie.
Smart
but my wife had to
man.
get up and go to work
That's
the next
some brownie
day.
points.
So
That's some good
I
brownie
knew I
points.
needed to take Brighton so she could get ready to go to work because she got to get up early, you know. So, but I wanted to stay so bad.
Is there any chance you lose brownie points kind of bragging about it on the podcast?
He could, yeah. But
Well, I still made the decision. I
Well,
still
it's true.
did it.
You still did the right thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what the policy is there.
One of the other grown men there was like, man, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't care. But, yeah.
How many grown men were at this thing? I thought you said
There's a
there was
lot.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Bunch
dude,
of
there's
kids.
some hardcore people. They look like they're straight out of like the
Oh,
fake
yeah?
Marines or something.
They look like,
Like-
They got their own guns and equipment.
Yes.
Oh,
with,
wow.
They're decked out looking
got
like
scuba tank guns and all kind of stuff.
Scuba tank guns.
Oh yes, it's nuts. These people are like silencers on their airsoft guns.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
We should all go out there and play.
We need to take a show trip
play.
out to
We
this.
should take
Yeah.
a show trip and have like a recorder on us all.
Second
Go for
shot.
it. I'm ready.
And
I got a
like
couple.
compile
We got
it all
some
together and make a cool deal out of
That's
it.
some
Y'all
good
want
stuff.
to?
I'd do that.
I'm ready.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I would absolutely do that.
I
yeah.
would love to shoot Josh. Where's Josh? Josh
Where
ain't
is
in here.
that guy? Yeah,
Josh,
no,
we can
but
hear
I'm
you.
gonna-
Hey, what
I'm
about
gonna
throw a
shoot-
grenade at Josh?
Oh yeah, the grenades are awesome.
Airsoft
I threw one of those
grenade.
Hey,
grenades.
the first time I went, I'm not kidding y'all. They threw these things called a flash grenade, and it caught the grass on fire. And my only thing is, if someone hits me with one of
That's
those, that's
hardcore.
not a battle I'm going to pick. I'm kicking somebody's
Fire
ass over
hazard.
there.
You
Okay?
run.
That's not happening. I'm out. I'm scared of that.
Pick your battles, right?
Right, that's a battle I'm going to choose to go ahead and take.
But it's
Wow.
cool. They got like a little city, a little fake city built,
yeah.
and all kinds of stuff out there, man. They're legit. what is it, 878 Airsoft or
That was-
something?
yeah.
Out by Waxahachie.
Yeah, let's give these guys a plug.
Yeah, they're good.
What's
It was,
their
it was
name?
cool. I think it's 878 Airsoft
it's
out by
878 Airsoft.
Waxahachie.
They're a smaller group, but they don't have a whole lot of people. That's what's nice about it.
They got
There's
it
some
where it
other ones
counts.
around here that have like 150, 200 people that show up.
Oh my
Yeah, but I
gosh.
like that. I like the
A little
where we
small,
at.
intimate setting. There's about 20
Yeah,
of you
yeah.
out there, so you don't get shot.
Intimately getting
Doesn't
shot.
need to be too many people, all right?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
let's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So got a listener email that this is a really cool one too. I like this. So this is from Daniel Johnson. Said, within the last few weeks, started listening to the show and listened to a lot of the back episodes. He talked about his wife was a dental hygienist, currently searching for a new job closer to home. She had an interview recently, and she was of course nervous, like a lot of people are. And he said he does not generally get nervous for interviews because he feels that it's just as much him interviewing the employer as them interviewing him. So he said, I tend to ask more questions in the interview than they end up asking me. So what are your thoughts on this? What are some of the best questions they've asked what are some of the best questions been asked by potential employees and some of the worst? What are questions that you feel that potential employees should ask at an interview? Thanks for doing the show. I feel like I've already learned a ton. So Daniel, first of all, thank you for taking the time to send us an email. And I really love your question. And I will say that, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, from an employee standpoint, I firmly believe the best question, and I don't think a lot of people would ask this question, but if you have confidence in yourself and your ability, why are you looking for somebody for this position? Especially, when you think about like a dental hygienist.
Oh, that's a good one.
You
Why
know,
are you looking to fill it? What happened?
What happened to the last person that was here? Because they're going to ask you, if they're interviewing you
Yeah.
properly, they're going to look down and go, okay, you've been here for 2 years, a year, 6 months, whatever it is, and go, why do you keep job hopping? So you have the right to ask them that question.
Sure.
What are you really looking for? I want to make sure that if I do get my name,
That
in
I'm the
hat,
right person.
That I'm the right person, and it's the
Right.
same question that should come back at you. The worst question I think to ask in an initial interview is how do you get paid? How much money you get paid? Things like that. You've heard it. But really and truthfully, just be real. I think.
Worry
Be
about the
yourself.
money when they make an offer,
Right.
and you negotiate it from there.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
It's a smart tip.
I
Right.
would.
I probably
'Cause-
wouldn't think to do that, but
Yeah.
now that you say it, I'm like, yep, that's
Yeah,
wise.
because then it's in your hands. I wouldn't worry about the money till they make the offer. Because when they make the offer, they basically went to that extreme. So now it's really kind of in your court.
Right. They bothered to make the offer at that point. You're like, well, what's this whole thing pay? Right. I
And if
gotcha,
you ask
yeah.
about money
First one
nonstop,
talks loses.
Yeah, and if you ask about money right from the start and all that, then you're coming off as somebody who's not.
You're looking for a job. You're leaving for 50 cents.
Yeah,
an hour.
you're looking for 50 cents or some sort versus
Right.
a career and a passion of some sort, so it can put people off. I can tell you that, Daniel, I think there's a fine line to walk of. You would probably put me off if you asked me more questions than I ask you.
Right.
Sure.
So
You go too far.
Yeah, I think there's a line of too far there. I do believe in employees asking questions. I love what you just said, Rob. That was a really good one, which is why are you filling this role? What happened?
Right.
And if it's so and so had her baby and she wants to stay at home mom, great. Or if if that employer starts dogging the person, then maybe there's some signs.
Right.
But I think he's right though. I think employees need to look to make sure they're going to be just
A
as
good
right
fit,
of a
yeah.
fit as the other, versus letting your ego get in the way because you always want to win. Right? That's what happened. You're going to start selling yourself, even though you know what you're selling for, because you want to win. Versus making sure you're using your time wisely and picking a good fit.
You would be surprised how many people walk in an interview with us, and by the time they walk out of there, you're going, oh my gosh, they're going to be the next coming of the greatest thing ever. And they show up and it's time to go to work. They don't do anything. And so I believe from an employee to an employer standpoint, knowing what you're walking into probably helps.
Well, okay, well, I got one for you. What do you think about this? Asking about, I don't know, best way to just directly ask about it. Asking about, like, what are the goalposts for success in this position? What would I have to do for you to say, great job?
I think that's another great question
Sure.
to ask. Is what are the expectations basically? What are the expectations? What
are you looking for?
If we came together and worked with each other, in a year from now, if I had done XYZ, you would say that is a super success.
Right.
That's a really good question. to
Versus like, yeah, you did an okay job. Yeah,
Yeah.
where's the margin? Yeah,
Yeah.
like to you, because it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Another one is that what do you think, what are people that didn't work in your company, why didn't it work out for them?
It's a good one.
You
Yeah.
know?
I like that.
That'll give you a lot of that whole deal. But I also would always start before I'm asking questions. Again, Daniel, if you're asking more questions than somebody else is, me personally, that would put me off some. So I don't know if I'd go in that. But I also would say
pick 3 or 4 questions. Good questions. I think.
Right. I would also ask for permission to ask them.
Oh, of course. You wait till the end.
I would
right?
wait till the end. Yeah. I wouldn't do it at the beginning. Again, because you let them get theirs out with it, and as you feel it's wrapping up, ask them, hey, Zach.
Be a good gauge of how many questions you could ask really at that point, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And be like, Zach, is it okay if I asked you a question or two?
Sure.
And if you do that, then you're getting the permission. I think it's a good way to not put somebody off. So maybe, Daniel, that's like something you can like tell your wife is asking permission. Maybe it makes her feel more comfortable about asking them versus just blurting them out. And I would definitely do it at the end.
Is there, I suppose it's case-by-case basis, but if somebody has no questions, does that rule them out? Or are you like, I didn't ask any questions.
Not necessarily.
I'm done.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
No, but I will say that there has been some that have asked me too many questions.
Yeah.
And it's put me off. But it's turned me off.
Hey,
sure.
Closing the deal, though, let's talk about a little bit about this. And
this
just sounds unique. This may sound crazy. And I told my brother-in-law this one time when he was interviewing for a coaching job. I said, if you find out what they're looking for, the easiest way to do that is go, hey, I may not be a fit for you guys, or you may not be a fit for me, but the bottom line is I've got to know what your end result, just like you said earlier, what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I may not even be that right person for
Where's the goalpost? Yeah.
Right. That can let their guard down in a big way.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's a really good way to approach it.
And being different when you go into those type of scenarios where you're not getting the same typical questions.
And somebody
that's
just sitting there going, and now I'll tell you this. If you go into an interview and you've not done any research of knowing about that company, of knowing about any sort, you're putting yourself on. I've sat down with people and go, so what do you know about Colonial Life? Well, I really don't know anything about y'all. I'm like,
right.
Really?
Yeah.
That is you don't need to spout off the whole company history, okay? But you better have done some sort of research.
Yeah, you could have Googled it. I mean, come on. Yeah.
It's easy, and that's really shows me a very lack of care.
Don't ask typical questions that everybody else would ask, but don't ask so over-the-top, smart-sounding questions that no one can answer them.
So let's recap some of the questions we talked about. Number one, there's a line. Too many questions is too much.
Right.
So pick a couple handful. And what you're really looking for is stuff to find you a fit. The second thing is ask for permission to ask the questions. And then tell what you just said, the deal, like, I want to see if I'm a good fit.
Yeah, I may not be a good fit for you guys. Basically, what long-term, what are you looking for? How do you want this to end?
Right.
Because I want to make sure that I feel that I'm a good fit for you guys as you are for me.
Right. Where is success here in this position?
And always throwing that I may not even be the right person.
Right. And not just what is doing my job, what is going past, what is doing more.
Right. It kind of feeds off of what your question is, really.
And so if we both mutually agreed this was a good fit for us in a year from now, what would you say that I would have had to do for you to say this was the excellent hire?
Right.
And then why are you filling the role? Mm-hmm. That's a really good thing to find out with the culture of that company. And also,
what happened?
Daniel, very insightful question. I really like that, and I think that is actually a really strong topic that a lot of people are trying to do, and it is something you can go over the line with. But
be confident. Be confident. Tell your wife to be super confident.
You got to be confident enough to ask them.
Confident.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Robert, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me at roberthalbert@linkedin.com.
And you find me at Ignorance on Fire at Heath Oaks. Guys, leave us a rating review. Share it with your friends and family. Tell everybody about us. Go on there. We need more ratings and reviews. It can help us find where more people can find us. Zach, Matt, appreciate you guys. And love all you listeners. We'll see you next time on Second Shot.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.